How's it, guys? Junaid here. Today's bait presentation video is going to be based on the three Chokka baits that I use for targeting cob. I'm going to show you three different traces that I use and three different bait presentations of the Chokka that I use. So you're going to need the following items to make this bait. You're going to need your knife. You need a Chokka hammer. You need some cotton. Now this cotton is the you can use the thick, or but preferably not the heavy one. But even if you use the thin, is fine. You're gonna need a chokka, whole chokka, probably a bit big one, like around 30 centimeters or so. And before I start the bait, I'm going to demonstrate the trace that I use, starting with the first trace and first bait that I use. So what I do is, since I use braid, so I have my braid leader. I'm going to attach my braid leader to a power swivel. I use a uni knot to attach the braid leader to this power swivel, and I have my nylon leader. This nylon leader can be around 50 centimeters or so. I use some strong nylon like 0.77 or 0.80. I use the Maxima Ultra Green for this. This is the leader. Now with my trace for cob, since now that we are in dead winter, we target cob, so it's important that we use a swivel that creates a lot of movement. So the swivel that I use is called a combination swivel. This combination swivel is the smallest one in its range. You see you find a swivel that moves around. I attach my hook line to that. The reason for that is the whole purpose of this swivel is for you to create more movement, and that swivel that rotates around is in fact going to give you more movement. But if you're using a combination swivel for bigger fish, then it's preferable you use this for the sinker line, as this can break off if you pull too hard. Now with regards to the trace from the combination swivel, I use some light nylon, maybe around 60 centimeters or so. I attach my sinker. I don't use grapnel sinker for cob. I use a cone sinker. Depends on rods, your rod strength, and I use a 5 to 6 ounce with the rod I use. So the trace is that the sinker line is maybe a few centimeters longer than the hook line. Now to the hook line for this trace, I attach some fluorocarbon nylon, probably around 0.60 to a J hook. The hook that I have here is a 4/0 executioner hook. So this is the trace that I use for cob. The first bait that I'm going to demonstrate for you is the Chokka blob bait. But before we start with the second and third trace, I am going to open the Chokka for you and show you how to prepare the Chokka so you can use it to the best of its use. So basically what we have on the outside of the Chokka is the Chokka wings. You'll notice there's a red part here, but this is something that is not much flesh in it, so I don't use it. If I'm running short of Chokka, I can shape it up into having some long tentacles or so, but for now we are not going to use this. So make sure you have a very sharp knife. I like to use a thin blade knife to cut very precisely using our Chokka. So what we do is we look for the Chokka. You'll find a center part of the Chokka. You take your knife and you start at the top of this, and you work your way down. You work your way down until it's open. You open the Chokka, you open it until it's something open like this. You have here is your transparent and the backbone of the Chokka. We don't use this, so we're going to keep this one side. And what I do is I take the wings out. So here you have it. You remove your wings of the Chokka, and you have this is what was I calling the wings of the Chokka. We don't use this. We are going to keep this one side for later on. Here we have is the Chokka head, as demonstrated in previous videos, that the Chokka head is an extremely effective bait. Don't throw it away. We can use it for catching other fish. We open this up and we have the ink sac. We are going to take the ink sac. It's very important for scent in the Chokka, and we're going to leave this one side. For now, we are going to take the head and leave it one side, and we are going to here you have your Chokka. It's not the freshest one, but you have a full white piece of Chokka here. So we are going to work with this bait now for the first one. The first Chokka bait that we are going to use is a Chokka blob bait. So you take your knife and you make a long strip. You make a long strip of Chokka from here. You make a long strip going down, and you have something like this. You have something like this. So you basically, what you do, you shape this up. You shape it up, and you have you take this excess. You have something like this. This is a long piece of Chokka. You notice the thick part is on top and it goes into the thinner part in the bottom. So you take your ink sac, a bit of it, and cut a piece. You cut a piece of it and you leave it here. You take your Chokka hammer. You got two sides. You got the fine side and you got the rough side. You can start with the rough side. You can start with the rough side and just start banging this in. So you can start banging it in. Don't feel shy. It must be, you bang this in, and a very important tip is to turn this around, and you get the Chokka with the soft side, and you get this with the hard side. And on the skin on the outside, you get the soft side inside. You always start with the soft side inside, and you move over. You turn it over and carry on beating this. Carry on beating this onto the reverse side, and you go back to the soft side and you smash this in, not too hard. You go one more time onto the hard side, you bang this in. Here you have your blob bait. It's smashed up. The oils are being released from the Chokka. You take your hook, your 4 executioner hook, and you see you've got a thin side and you've got a thick side. So you start off with the thick side. You basically, what you do, you thread this in, you put this in, you turn it around, you put it in again, you put it in onto the other side, you put it in again, you put it over and over again until it comes to the end of the bait. You come to something like this, and you make sure you leave this long part out. Now it's in like this, you just don't, this bait is not complete. You hold your bait and you pull this in until you get something like this. So guys, this is preferably my favorite bait for cob. It's called a Chokka blob bait. Make sure that you pull half of the bait over the eye of the hook, and there's a part hanging down. This in working water can catch you any cob. I've caught cob up to 5 kilos using this bait. It's an excellent bait. Even in the reefs you can catch a bronze bream, you can catch a cave bass, you can catch a barbel, you can catch any fish with this. Even if the greys are biting, you can catch a bait. This is the Chokka blob bait. It's a general bait that you can catch, but we are targeting cob. If you look at the movement that this creates in the water, the lateral line of the cob picks this up and you get a bite. And it's almost instant that by the time the fish eats the fleshy part of the Chokka, the fish is basically going to be hooked already. So people try this bait. It's my favorite bait for cob. Now we come to our second bait, which is I call it like a helicopter bait. It's just like making strips of Chokka and putting it on. But for this, we are going to use some fluorocarbon. It's basically the same trace that I just had different hook lines that I'm going to attach. I snelled the hook. The hook that I'm using here is a 6-0 Maruto hook with some fluorocarbon, probably around the same length, around 50 centimeters or so. And this is also an excellent bait. If you noticed, what we're going to use for this bait is long strips, and we're just going to attach it on. So basically, we're going to create thin strips. We're going to have 3 strips just take one strip, push it one side, and we have another thin strip onto the other side, and we're gonna have another thin fleshy strip onto this side. So basically you have got three strips. You've got three strips of Chokka. You've got this, and it looks like a Chokka leg in the water. So we are going to use our circle hook. As we know, with circle hooks, if you don't have a dangle, you can only pin a bait on, because if you tie a bait in fact to this circle hook, most of the time you don't hook up with the fish. So it's best, in my opinion, that if you're going to use a circle hook, make sure you pin a bait on. So very simple with this bait is to merely just pin this on. You take your circle hook, you take your Chokka strip, in the center of the Chokka you pin it on, bring it in here, you go with your second strip, you pin it on also, pin it on, and you come to your third strip, you do the same thing again, just merely pin it on. And people, here you have it, it's your bait. This bait here, it will not fall off. It goes, you throw this into working water, it moves around. There's a lot of movement with this. You can just chuck it like this. You don't have to throw this bait far. In fact, you just lob it into working water and just walks all around. It just carries on moving like this, and I promise you, this is one of the most underrated baits. It works extremely well. You can catch any fish that you can, what I've mentioned with the first bait with this. It's an excellent bait. There's no need for cotton for these two baits. The more movement for cob, the better for you to get a bite. And people, that is your second bait that I've done. I'm going to move on into my third bait. So here, when this bait is for targeting cob that are on the larger side. We're talking like over 5 kilos. If you're fishing for cob in Transkei or at Tugela Mouth using bigger Chokka bait, so you're going to use this bait for targeting cob. The bait the hook that I use here is a 8-0 mustard hook. Attached with it is some foam, and I have a toothpick into the eye of the hook to keep the foam in place. This foam doesn't allow the bait to go too high, as cob are not surface feeders. So this foam just keeps the bait intact. So, and it gives it some thickness also. So a bigger cob like that bigger bait. So what the trace line we use here is we use some fluorocarbon also. Preferably go up to 8-0 with this, because the bigger cob have a lot of head movements and can unexpectedly cut you off. And if you're hooking a bigger fish, if you're going to put some pressure onto it, you cannot afford to use thin nylon to cut yourself off. A very important trick that I'd like to show you today is this two glow beads. Cob, in fact, are very intelligent animals. They work with scent and also sound. If you look at these two beads, when they hit into each other, they create sound into the water. And in fact, the cob senses that, and you get a bite quicker. Now this toothpick will keep your bait in place. So to prepare this bait is simple also. We're going to go for we got the rest of our Chokka here. We're going to go for a little bit of a bigger bait. So we're going to start by taking our knife and cutting this bait in half. Cutting this bait in half, you have something like this. This will be our base of our bait. Now we want to create a base, so we are going to shape this up a bit, and we're going to, so it sits onto our hook easier. Basically now we have something like this. What I just did is I shaped this up to keep it into our hook. We have a Chokka base that we're going to use. So what we're going to do here is, the trick for this is, for the bigger cob, they need a lot of movements of very large tentacles of this. You're going to keep your knife and split this into half. So you're going to have something to this extent. You're going to have something that's going to be doing this. Thereafter, take your Chokka hammer and beat this up very lightly. very lightly on both sides. On both sides this can be done very lightly. We are merely just preparing the bait. Here you take our hook, and from there you get the soft side, you get the hard side. We're going to put this on into the hard side. We're going to put this into the hard side, and we got our toothpick which we're going to put in, and we're going to tie this on. So we're going to take our cotton, and merely just bind this on. We're going to bind this on lightly, not too much, and we're going to keep it like this. So we have something like this, very large tentacles. And the second part of this is we are going to create, take our ink sac, and we are going to create a body of the chokka to hit it on. And if you want to create the best bait for chokka, you're going to use shape it up, and you're going to have some excess. Don't feel ashamed to throw the excess away or keep it away. If you're using it for scratching later on, you can use it. We take our ink sac, and we merely beat this on. This not be very hard. You beat this up into something. You hit both sides. Turn this up. Hit this hard. The ink sac must smash into the chokka. So ink sac must be smashed. It's going to give us a lot of scent. Beat it up. I like to beat it up 4 times, 1 on either side. So 1 and 2 on either side, and you can, the ink sac really goes in. We have something like this onto our bait. We have something like this onto our bait. This now has a lot of scent. Now we go back to our bait, and we can shape this up a bit so we don't have any excess onto our hook, because you don't want to squash the hook and choke the hook, sorry, and you get a pull and you don't connect. Put this onto the back of the base of the hook, and thereafter you take your hook, your cotton, and you bind this on. Very tight. Bind it on. You continue binding till you have something like this. If you have this, you can bind it on much more on, and until you have a very tight bait. But what in fact this does is there's a lot of scent in this. It goes into the water, this disengages, and you get a lot of scent going out. This creates a lot of movement into the water, and you get a bite. So people, that is your 3 baits that I use for cob, to target cob of different sizes. But lastly, before we end this video, please remember your dusky common cob, you're allowed 1 per day, and it's a minimum of 60 centimeters. Please stick to that limit. I hope this empowers all anglers who are willing to catch cob, and let me know the results.